50 to 70% of the psychology theory, other than game theory, that's in all these social media apps was actually taken from the casino industry. I couldn't get a haircut without giving them my phone number, my email address, my first and last name. I said, I'm not applying for a credit card here. I'm getting a haircut. People say they don't have time. It's just bullshit. They're going to find time when they're living in a box.
Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Businesses podcast. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to have who I think is one of the absolute legendary digital marketers on the planet and somebody that I respect just tremendously. That's Perry Belcher. And so we're really excited to have you on board today, Perry.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So just a little bit about Perry. You're such a jack of all trades and you're so darn good at everything. Copywriter, growth strategist. It's just amazing what all you've been able to accomplish, and I admire you so much for that. We've got Jeff Steck from Tylerica Marketing in Austin, Texas. Ian Cantle from Bradford, Ontario, from Outsourced Marketing, and then Paul Barthel and myself, both from ChangeCape Web. So over the last couple of years, Perry, you've done a lot of really great things that I think have been kind of leading education in the community, from AI Bot Summit, traffic and conversion strategies that you've been doing for years and years and years, vibe coding, primal offer workshop that I got to attend with you in person, which was amazing. And your 4-box business model strategy, which I think is just so important for every business to kind of learn and understand. We wanted to kind of talk to you today just about a variety of different things, especially the more cutting edge things that you've been working on. So I'll get started if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, cool. So the idea of marketing and sales funnels have been kind of the backbone of digital marketing for a long time. What's changed in customer behavior today that maybe makes them less effective than what they have been in the past?
Just like with any other marketing tool, as the cat's out of the bag, things tend to be less and less effective. If you look back, Alan Sultanic said this, was really smart. He said, every great innovation in marketing has been a method by which to disguise the sales process. Right. Yeah. So when we started off online, selling online, there was e-commerce stores, which were pretty easy and they were pretty straightforward. It was like walking into a store, you put things in your basket like a supermarket and you checked out and you left. And then all of a sudden, these direct response marketers of old started popping in and teaching direct response marketing to a whole generation of people. Corey Rudol was the guy that started that. And at first, there was a long form sales letter that looked an awful lot like what today we would call an advertorial. It was a special report, that told you all about whatever, and then boom, at the end, buy my stuff, right? And then it went to teleseminars. That was the thing, which, by the way, are back, if you didn't know that. But it would be a teleseminar would be the next thing, and get on a teleseminar and you're going to learn something. Oh, just kidding, buy my stuff, And then it was a webinar. Get on a webinar, you're going to learn some stuff. And you learn some stuff, and then surprise, surprise, buy my stuff, right? And there have been more and more, methodologies for that. And then funnels came along. I think actually Matt Basak and I, right around the very same time, were the first people to ever do one-click upsells. And I didn't have any software to do them with. We did them with actually a human being. We would have your shopping cart would push data to a thank you page. And we would ask on that thank you page if people wanted to add additional things to their orders. And if they did, I used to have 2 ladies that would sit all day and augment their orders and add those things to their orders. And that's how I started doing one-click upsells. And it was a boondoggle for me. And those 2 ladies sat there and put thousands of dollars a day in the bank for me because there was no software that did it. And then Matt had somebody create a little piece of software that worked, I think, on maybe one shopping cart or something like that. And then all of a sudden, somebody invented this amazing thing called Infusionsoft, and it had upsells built in it. And so they've been around a long time. And I wouldn't go so far as to say they don't work today. They still work. They work less in the marketing community, where it is my least favorite market in the whole wide world. Marketers selling marketing materials to marketers about how to market to marketers. They don't work that great there because we're very much in the know. I mean, we know what's coming, right? If you or I get on a teleseminar or a webinar or go, buy a free plus shipping offer, I mean, we know there's going to be an upsell there. There's no surprise to us. There's no novelty to it, right? So it works less. But like when I'm selling sourdough starter on Pinterest, I'm still getting 50% take rates on one-click upsells because those people have never seen one before. They don't know, they perhaps never seen one. So it's not as I wouldn't say you throw the baby out with the bathwater on them quite yet. They're still there, but it's the whole process of selling online is changing a great deal. Smart sellers are beginning to concentrate, which we should have for a long time, are beginning to concentrate on a great deal more on the quality of the product and really having a deep understanding of the client. Marketers got really lazy with traffic targeting, because, if you got a guy walking across the Sahara Desert, it's pretty easy to sell him water, right? And if you could just target down tight enough, all you had to say was, I got water, and you sold a lot. Well, now you can't target that tightly anymore. And the skill of being able to market to people is actually much more valuable today than it's ever been. And it's a different game. It's not about tricks. It's not about hyperbole. It's not about pressure. It's not about any of those things anymore. It's more about authenticity. And most importantly, really spending the time to understand the client.
Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned in Primal Offers is, these big audacious claims that marketers have been making for years, 10x your business and do this and do that, is no longer really resonating well with people. Really they're looking for lower return, but also much lower risk. And that's, becoming a really important consideration. Can you talk just a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, it depends on that really comes down to the sophistication of the buyer.
Yeah.
Right. In a lot of cases, if I tell a guy on the street that I meet at the bar who's broke, that if he'll give me $1, I'll show him how to make $10 from it. I'll get him a 10 times return on his dollar. Well, he might risk $1, but probably not. Maybe, but he's not very sophisticated. If I go to a sophisticated investor and say, give me $1 million and I'm going to get you a 10 times return on it, they're just going to laugh their head off. They're not even going to think about you. You're going to be ridiculous, because there's just no such returns without actual, there could be in a physical business, but as an investment, there's no such returns. So when we're making ridiculous offers, they don't work to smarter people. They don't work to more sophisticated people. And what happens is, and what's always happened, this is not a new thing. It's just people are realizing it more. When you make those kinds of offers and they do work, you're getting the worst possible customer you could get, because that customer, number one, was dumb to start with, right? Two, they were a sloth to start with. They were wanting something for nothing. Three, they're gonna be disappointed. And when they're disappointed, they're gonna hate you 20 times more than they loved you for telling them the secret that wasn't really a secret. It was just bullshit.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And all that hyperbole, it now is a signal. It's a signal. Everybody's been screwed 15 times and nobody's really lining up for number 16. Their butts are still sore. So, and if you go back to caveman mentality, it's like, It's just learned behavior. Over time, you may want something a lot. You may attempt it 3, 4, 5 times. But at the end of the day, you eventually learn that the fire is hot. Don't touch it. Yeah.
You only have to learn to stick your hand in the fire and then it's hot,
right.
2 times before you start to realize you don't want to do that again.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Paul, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I do. Few. So you talk about AI-driven ecosystems. So first of all, can you kind of explain what that is and what does it look like in practice for a small business?
I have no idea. I really.
All right, moving on.
I don't know. No, but I don't know what an AI-driven ecosystem is. I don't know that I've used that term. I think maybe we're an AI first company. I don't know. The ecosphere is certainly changing. I guess you could say it that way. And AI is a GPT, not Chat GPT, but a GPT. Meaning it's a general purpose technology. There's only been, depending on who you ask, about 8 of them ever in the history of mankind. The first one was fire. The next one was the wheel. The next one was the engine. The next one was electricity. There's only been a handful of things that the telephony, the internet, telephony, computers, the internet, and now AI. And you've got 2 on the horizon right now. You've got AI and humanoid robotics, and both are equally as huge a shift as anything could be. The ecosphere, I guess, to say that what's the AI ecosphere? I don't know that there is one. I think that we're still, we're very much in a human ecosphere, but there's a total shift. What a GPT means is that it's a technology that changes every human's life on the face of the planet. And that's the reason there are only, so few of them, right? But AI is one of those. So it changes the economy. It changes our society. I mean, if you look right now how we fight, right? You're a liberal, I'm a conservative. I hate you, you hate me. If people were hate, I'd be China, right? That's largely driven by AI, believe it or not. The AI ecosphere, I guess as you'd call it, is, created something like TikTok and Instagram that when you start watching a show today, or when you start watching things on TikTok, they show you more things like the thing that you watch. If you're a conservative, they show you more conservative stuff. If you're a liberal, they show you more liberal stuff. If you're a millennial, they show you millennial stuff. If you're an old fart like me, they show me country music and, osteoporosis supplements, they just show you more of what you want. So they're cementing your beliefs through AI because AI analyzes, well, Perry likes to hear about blank, so we're going to show him more blank. And as a business model, it's a good idea. As a society, it's a terrible idea because people lack a diversity of information anymore. I mean, there are good liberal people out there. There are good conservative people out there. But when you do this, it demonizes the other on either side. So that's a big shift. Inside business, the ignorance of business people to the cataclysmic shift that is going on right now is, to me, scary. It's actually quite frightening because I think a lot of businesses are going to wake up one morning and it's too late. When, I was I'll tell you a funny story. I was in South Bend, Indiana. That's the home of Notre Dame, right? And I was chasing a girl. This many years ago. I was chasing a girl. Imagine that. And I went to.
That's illegal now.
I took her to a fancy. Well, I didn't catch her, so there you go. I took her to a fancy dinner at this place called the Tippecanoe Place, and this was the home. This is the Studebaker family mansion. If you remember Studebaker cars,
yeah.
And they had a 50-room mansion there. It's beautiful. It's now a restaurant. Weirdly enough, owned by the Ralston Purina company. So it's a fine dining restaurant owned by a dog food company, which is a little frightening. But anyhow, they bought it and turned it into like
Farmer's dog.
one. Yeah, right. Turned it into one of the finest restaurants in the world, if it's still there. I don't know if it's still there or not. But I was surprised with the history of it. I remember this 25, 30 years ago. Oh, shit, I wish it was 25 years ago. It's probably 40 years ago now. And I remember being taken aback by the fact that I'm like, well, Studebaker, do you know what they're famous for, Ken? Or do you know what they're famous for, Paul?
No.
Well, they were basically a high-end horse and buggy company, and they started building cars.
100%. 100%. But they started building cars too late.
Yeah, exactly.
They decided that, they would keep building horse and buggy, that this car thing may be a flash in the pan.
Right.
So they waited a long time. They had all the capital, all the ability, all the engineering, all the factories. But by the time Ford and Chrysler and everyone else got started and had a heads up on them, it was too late. And the Studebaker.
Yeah, and they actually built really good cars, but like you said, they were just too late.
It was too late. So you had tons and tons of people. By the way, I don't pay attention to this weird thing I'm drinking. I'm on this diet thing, and my girlfriend's been giving me multicolored things all day that I have no idea what's in them. But the same is true with, there were tons and tons of people who decided that this internet thing, well, I'll just wait. I don't know.
It's just a fad.
I don't know if that's going to be a thing or not. Right.
What do you need a website for?
Right. Said Blockbuster. Right. So you got, those companies went the wayside. So, but look at what was birthed out of it. Out of the horse and buggy came this gigantic industry, this automotive. Out of the internet came this enormous multi-industry. And out of AI will come a great deal of industries, but with a great deal of casualties left behind. And they're always the same. They're always the people that said, well, I'm just going to wait and see what happens before I decide. And when something's a little bit difficult, when it's not quite, it's not impossible, it's not too technical, but it's not quite easy enough. Like right now, I'm doing a lot of, I think Ken said, I'm doing a lot of vibe coding. I'm writing software right now, and I'm an idiot when it comes to that stuff. But I can crank software like mad with AI. It's not as easy as it eventually will be. But when it becomes really, really, really easy, there'll be less and less and less money in it. So getting in and figuring out AI and robotic process automation and things like that now, while they're still a little bit crude, a little bit primitive, the earlier people get into those things, the better off they're going to be. And just to ignore it, everybody says the same thing. Well, if you ignore it, it's going to kill you. Well, it's going to kill you. If you ignore it, you're going to, I don't even know you're going to be working at Starbucks, because there's not going to be anybody working at Starbucks. You're going to go into Starbucks and a robot's going to hand you your coffee. That's a fact. They've got a McDonald's in Fort Worth, Texas right now that has one employee in it. It's a very high volume McDonald's. And that one employee just watches the robots to make sure they're all running properly and that the supply lines are filled. So, fast food's going to become big box vending machines, for lack of a better term, So I guess that's a long about way to not really answer your question, Paul, but as best as I can.
Well, you said a couple things like on social media. I said for a long time that social media drives people into echo chambers, and it just, like you said, it just keeps feeding them what they want, and it separates people, and they have no opposing viewpoints, no diverse viewpoints, and I hate you and you hate me. Right. And I think social media has been doing that for a long time. And, on AI, as far as it relates to business, I don't know if small businesses are ignorant. I think they're overwhelmed because things are changing faster now than they ever have. And
they're changing faster than they know they are too.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think they're just overwhelmed, and they're scared. And it's like going back to what you said about being burned. In their mind, I'm sure part of it is like, okay, maybe this is for real, but I've been burned before. How do I know I'm not going to get burned this time?
Well, and there'll be some guy that walks in the door that tells them how they're going to fix their website and make them rich, and then just steals their money. And that's so common. But there's when you look, it's like a perfect storm of bad. The something like almost 70% of U.S. businesses are owned by people over 60. So if you're over 60 and you're going to have to learn a whole new way of doing business, it's very, very hard. That's the reason there's such a turnover in those businesses right now. That's the reason they're selling, and their kids don't want them. The kids don't want responsibilities of businesses. They saw their parents work so hard that they don't want to work that hard. They think they can do it easier. They'll just, get a meme coin, or they'll become an influencer or whatever the hell. And, they'll get out of that when they get hungry. But for now, we're living in a very prosperous country. So, it's nuts. And as a business model, it's genius. And that these companies like Meta and TikTok and all that, they're all being driven not by technology, really. They're being driven by caveman level psychology. That's the real part nobody talks about. They're paying psychologists and sociologists and, running multi-billion-dollar behavioral science studies to figure out, do you know that the scroll feature, the thing that rolls up, rolls the things on your phone where you can scroll through like that, when Facebook put that in place, Facebook usage went up by 2,000%.
Wow.
2,000%. Just that scrolling. What's it remind you of? Anything you can think of that it reminds you of? How about a slot machine? It works on the same psychology a slot machine does. When the wheels are, you can walk up to a slot machine, put in your quarter. You don't take quarters anymore, they take credit cards. But you put in your quarter, press a button, and say you lost or you won. But if it did that, no one would play slot machines. The wheels turning stimulate a dopamine response in the brain of chance. And chance is incredibly addictive. So is the scroll on the phone. So they took, there's a great book Joe Polish recommended to me called Addiction by Design. Addiction by Design. And it's all about how casinos are designed to psychologically addict you. And probably 50 to 70% of the psychology theory, other than game theory, that's in all these social media apps was actually taken from the casino industry.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of the things that you were talking about, Perry, kind of triggered a thought in my mind. And that's, when I'm talking to small businesses, they never put a price to inaction or a price to those missed leads or opportunities. And I think that, that's what's going to be so tragic, because it's going to steamroll certain businesses and certain industries very, very quickly. Others, it's going to take a while to roll out. But, it's because people, they're not taking action, even taking little micro actions, starting to do some things, using AI, getting comfortable with it is, I think, going to be so important for so many businesses to survive. But they just aren't taking any action at all. And that's what's tragic.
Yeah. And I don't think they're gonna. I mean, and for the people that are in the know, we're just as dumb. Because we're not, right now, I'm living a very uncomfortable lifestyle, unfortunately, because I work from 5 a.m. until my eyes burn so much I can't work anymore at night, because I know what I'm sitting on top of, right? We have an enormous advantage. And people are like, well, yeah, but pretty soon everybody's going to be onto this, and AI will do everything, and it doesn't matter what business I start, AI is going to take it over. And, it's just so untrue. If you look, how much time have people had to learn to build websites, right? And how many people do you know that know how to build a website outside our industry? I mean, one in 500, maybe. They're not going to adopt that quickly. The scary part is how quickly corporations are adopting. So the gap between small business and big business is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Small business is going to be okay, but small business is going to actually be small. It's going to be small. It's going to be industries that big companies don't want to screw with because they're just too disparate. They're too spread out. They don't scale well. I went yesterday to 2 places to get a haircut. And the first place pissed me off so bad I left. But the second place, by the time I got to the second place, I submitted. I couldn't get a haircut without giving them my phone number, my email address, my first and last name. I said, I'm not applying for a credit card here. I'm getting a haircut. And they were like, I'm sorry, we can't do it unless you do this. And I know they're selling my data, and the poor girl at the salon, I can't get mad at her. She's just under directive. But when hair salons here open at 9:00. When I was a kid, a man's barbershop opened at 6 a.m. You went down and saw Charlie before you went to work and you got a haircut,
Yeah.
But in small town America, that's still around. I think you're seeing really a big exodus right now, too, of cities. That's going to be an interesting thing because for the last 20 years, the growth of metropolitan cities has been, clearly where everything was going, super cities, all that. Now you're seeing people spread back out into the countryside, so to speak. And I think you're going to see more and more of that. So that's going to slow it down a little bit, because big corporations not going to care what's going on in, Blytheville, Arkansas. They're just not going to care. It's not going to be enough money to matter. So, small business will be okay, but it's going to be small. It's going to be mostly manual. And, retail, dude, I would not want to be in the retail business right now. It's a scary space. Retail, anything blue collar, anything that's, bookkeeping, things like that. That stuff can be so much better done. But even manual stuff, humanoid robotics are going to be crazy. We're looking at buying a farm right now. And my girlfriend says, well, who's going to do all the work around the farm? Robots. We'll buy robots. By the time we get the farm, Tesla will be selling us a robot that'll go, hoe the fields, pick the tomatoes, bring them in and make us an omelet in the morning, and that'll be fine. And I'll get that before other people get it because the first ones out are going to cost $100,000, but eventually they're going to cost less than a used car, and it won't be long. It'll take 2 or 3 years. So the thing that we got right now going on that people don't grasp, I think, is all the other technologies that have ever happened, right? They were developments that people created, invented, discoveries happened, and then we went on to the next discovery. Robotics and AI are the only developments ever that build upon themselves. The AI teaches the AI. The robot, right now at the Tesla plant here in Austin, Texas, they're building robots with, guess what? Robots. So they're using robots to build robots. So so there's a point where that just becomes exponential. It's exponential growth that's uncappable and grossly unpredictable.
Yeah.
Hey, Perry. If I could add one thing, when you were talking about the barrier and ignorance being one of them, and then Paul mentioned overwhelm. I would add fear to that. But here's the thing I think that people need to come to grips with is if you look at the adoption curve with some of those other game changers that you talked about, it was measured in months or years, and AI is changing. I heard something the other day, if you're more than 9 days away from it, you've probably fallen out of touch, right? The adoption, the rate of change that's coming in so fast that you can't afford to take that wait and see attitude and see where it's going to be in a few months, because then you're going to be what equivalently would have been years behind.
Just open up your phone in a bar and ask people if they've seen, how to generate an image in ChatGPT. I'd say maybe 20% of people. I think the stat is now like 8% of people in America use ChatGPT on a daily basis. It's less than 10% used on a daily basis. 30% have played with it, right? And we're talking about the rudimentary toy of the industry, right? We're not talking about power tools. Nobody's using the power tools. So yeah, you're right. Fear is going to freeze people. And I think a lot of these people in their 60s and later are just going to say, I'm just going to hang up my boots and go out in the country and hopefully live on my retirement.
And buy a farm.
Buy a farm like me. I'm going to buy a farm before I buy the farm, That's my general idea. I'm taking all the money I make in AI. I'm telling you, I invest it in stuff that AI won't affect. I bought a septic tank company last year, and I'm doing things that because I don't think the AI is going to pump the poop out of my septic tank, right? So I'm trying to figure industries to invest in that are going to be. Everything's eventually going to be affected, but there will be industries that will be affected later. I'm investing in a moving company right now, and the moving company uses robots today to move really big objects. We only move safes, pool tables, pianos, and hot tubs. We only move the stuff other moving companies don't want to move, but we do it with robotic movers, so it doesn't, strain the human or whatever. That's a good business to be in. When there's fear in the streets, there's money to be made. Right? Every stock investor knows that. And people are afraid and they're uncertain. And this uncertain political climate that we're in of division sparks that. Social media adds to that. Like, people are anxious and unsure. And, as we're filming this, there's a shooting yesterday that was just awful. People are, and there's something almost every day that you go, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Where are we living and what times are we living? And, when that happens and you're watching your business go down and you don't know why, because as smarter operators come in that are better automated, they're not going to send you a card that tells you, you're going out of business, dude. You're just going to start noticing fall off, and you're going to blame it on the economy, and you're going to blame it on inventory, and you're going to blame it on, customers and all kinds of things, when really it's just, you just didn't adapt, bro. Because I promise you, as sales were going down on the buggies, Mr. Studebaker was yelling at the sales department saying, make more calls. It didn't matter. It really didn't matter,
Yeah.
Perry, you were mentioning that one of the biggest mistakes we can make with AI is not being an early adopter. But are there also other types of mistakes that businesses are making as they try to implement AI onto their marketing or onto their old school funnels right now?
Yeah, I really think so. That's a good question. I think that they're trying to be too automated. Well, let me back up a little bit. Number one, I think most people are using AI in completely the wrong way. They're approaching it the wrong way. I use AI to think. Most people that are new to AI or think they know what it is, or whatever, they're saying, well, what task can I get this AI to do for me? How can I make this a slave? How can I make it do the task that I don't want to do? And AI will do that, to some extent, along with, RPA, robotic process automation, things like N8N and things like that. You can automate tons and tons and tons of tasks. And soon, you'll be automating them to a physical humanoid robot that will go do those things that you don't want to do. And that's an important part of AI. That's an important part of the technology, but it's not the most important part. The most important part is you have 177 IQ, 15, 20 points higher than Einstein, advisor in your pocket on every subject on earth, and you're still making your own decisions because you believe you're smarter. You believe that you're in charge, and you are in charge, but you're not smarter. People who are still trying to make those decisions for themselves. I ask AI, my number one prompt in AI right now is, what do you think? Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? Hey, I just bought this company. What do you think? I'm thinking about buying this company. What do you think? I'm thinking about offering this. What do you think? And I ask opinions of all these experts that I've built inside, various AI tools. So I think, number one, not adopting at all. Number two, I see this a lot. I see people not using AI to think and get advice from there. I have three layers. I have advisors, project managers, and then task bots that I use. But of the people who do adopt, the second dumbest thing that I see is them learning and them getting tools and then not teaching and tooling up their teams. When you're not giving your teams the same tools that you have because you're afraid they're going to leave you or whatever, man, you're making a big mistake, because you can make each person on your team 10, 20, 50, 100 times more effective, giving them proper training and tools to incorporate this new technology into your whole business. And it's exciting. And people want to work for forward companies. And if they're going to leave you, they're going to leave you anyway. And guess what? They're going to leave you anyway. Nobody's going to be with you for the rest of your life, probably. Right? So try to have a good run with them. Hopefully they leave you better than they found you, and you leave them better than you found them. And that's the way things work, right? I think the last thing that I see people do is try to over automate. They're trying to over automate and make things very impersonal, like the haircut thing yesterday. I mean, they're going to make 30 cents gathering my data. But I walked out of a $50 haircut, which is crazy that a haircut should cost $50. No more hair than I got, right? I walked out of a $50 haircut because I didn't want to give them their 30 cents worth of data. That's stupid. That's really stupid.
Yeah.
People still want to have respect. The thing that's happening, though, is pretty interesting. Younger people have an incredible tolerance now. I watch it, and it's fascinating to me. They just comply. Many years ago, the first job I ever had, it wasn't really a job. I wasn't supposed to be working. I was 12 years old or 13 years old, and my stepdad ran a gas station, and I would help him by going to pump gas, and he would pay me under the table a little bit of cash, and it wasn't much. But I did that. I wanted to work. I always wanted to work, and I'd get some tips, for changing oil and wiping windshields and shit like that. And I was working at this gas station when they came in one day and they installed self-service pumps. There was no such thing. And they installed self-service pumps. And my God, people threw an absolute fit. And they made the gas a little bit cheaper on the self-service pumps. And back then, we had a big chain with a key. I don't know if anybody remembers that or not. But I used to have to go out and unlock the gas pump. If you wanted to pump your own gas, I had to go unlock the gas pump for you to pump your own gas. That was the system. And man, people bitched about that to high heaven. But then, a couple of years later, it's all self-service. People eventually capitulated. And you've, self-checkouts in grocery stores and department stores have been the same way. Over time, people bitched and moaned, and over time, they just eventually capitulated. So I don't know. I guess people are going to fall into it. It just is fascinating to me. I don't know how, as things get more and more technical, there's less and less customer support. I don't know how older Americans cope. What do they do when their electricity goes off and there's nobody that answers the phone at the power company anymore? What do they do when there's fraudulent charges on their credit cards and nobody answers phone calls at the credit card company anymore, because this is very common today. I mean, so few. Everybody wants to automate everything to be hyper efficient, and they have to be, because these giant corporations are consolidating so many customers. I go to the Philippines a lot, and over there, I saw a thing with 4 high-rise buildings put together, 10, 12,000 people in each building. And all they do is handle the customer service for AT&T. That's it.
I just saw a headline today, literally this morning, that said the first big round of jobs that are going to be eliminated are customer service jobs by AI.
Yeah, and it's gonna hit third world countries too. It's going to hit India. It's going to hit technical support out of India, customer service out of the Philippines. Even though those jobs are cheap, they're going to be the easiest to wipe out.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to get wiped out. Mid-level management is going to get absolutely assassinated.
Yeah.
I mean, just killed. And so you're going to have all these $125,000 mid-level Americans that got mortgages and car payments and kids in college and planned on a life, they're just going to have a wrecking ball ran through their life. And if they don't, make a move now, this is going to create great deals of opportunity for us, so, because you're going to see, there are going to be more and more people looking for a new way to make a living. There's going to be more and more people starting businesses, because they're going to have to. They're going to have to.
Yeah.
You're 55 years old and your company decides that they don't need your whole department anymore. Well, what are you going to do? Go find another job? No.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go find something that you can do, trade or barter in your community to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
Or you got to go on the streets. Those are your two choices. So, if I'm you, I'm prepping that nest now. If you got a job, you got extra hours. You don't have to watch Yellowstone reruns. You don't have to sit by the TV and wait for the next season of Landman to come out. You can spend. I don't have time. Bullshit. Everybody's got time. I start working at 5 a.m. most mornings. I study for a couple hours. I spend an hour with good paper on a clipboard. I spend an hour with a cup of coffee and no computer, no phone, no anything. And then after that, I just stare at a piece of paper with a pencil. I like pencils because they're tactile. And I write my thoughts for the day and what I want to get accomplished and what I missed yesterday and things like that. And then I start training. I start watching videos and coursework and stuff like that. So for another hour or two. And, by the time, and then I start working, I start knocking out. I want to knock down my first project of the day before anybody else in the house gets up. Because that's when everything gets hectic, right? So, you've been to my house. You've been to my house, Ken. So, my girlfriend gets up about 7:30. By then I've already been up, 2.5 hours and already knocked a big chunk of my day out. And a lot of times I'll go back and take a nap after that, but people say they don't have time. It's just bullshit. They're going to find time when they're living in a box.
Yeah, that's true.
You're going to have a lot of time.
Yeah. Time is like a vacuum. Something will expand to fill it.
Yeah, exactly.
So Perry, we're just a minute ago on the topic of customer service and AI being applied to it. If we broaden that out to the overall customer journey, as marketers, we talk about the customer journey a lot. We've talked about how it's evolved, how everyone thinks it's linear, but it's really this crazy convoluted rat's nest, how 7 touches has gone to 50 touches in some businesses. But if we take it back to the customer journey in AI, how would you say that AI is not only influencing and being used, but also even changing the customer journey compared to what we think of traditionally?
Yeah, I know. My old business partner Ryan created that whole customer value journey thing. I don't know how much I believe in it. If you've got a problem today, you want a solution today. Dan Kennedy, who I have a great deal of respect for, told me one time, every offer needs an express lane. Some people are looking for a problem. They want to solve it today. They'll pull a trigger today if you give them a path to do that. Right. Yeah. Some people who have a pain problem, they don't even know what it is. I think Ryan is absolutely right, by the way, that there are people that are, they're pain aware, problem aware, solution aware. I forget the process, but I think that while you have to follow that process, you can also greatly accelerate that process. There's a lot to be learned from the dating gurus, because they talk about how, if a girl wants to, go through these different steps of intimacy before they'll sleep with you, right? But you can accelerate those. You can't skip them, but you can accelerate them. And I think before all that, the thing that AI gives me the greatest gift of, truly, is its ability to do collegiate level, team level, deep research that has never been available to me. So I can take a market that I don't know that much about, or perhaps don't know anything about, run, super deep research on the business model that I want to run super deep research on the industry, run super deep research on the avatar, run super deep research on the belief systems, run super deep research on my competitors, before I ever sit down to make a decision to start that business or to develop a new product or to formulate an offer. I've got all this data that it really was impossible to accumulate before. Even with Google, you'd be Googling till your eyes popped out. Now it's, a couple of hours of AI, which sounds like an eternity in AI, because we're like on AI now, they're like, why isn't it here yet? I ordered this 72-page deep research report 4 minutes ago, and look at the clock. It's just running, makes you, you're just stupid in the way you think about it. But then you get this amazing research, and hell, you don't even have to read it. You can have it analyze the research for you afterward,
Yeah.
So, but people aren't doing that. I promise you, 99.99999% of marketers or business owners are still not doing that. I can usually sit down with a client, any client, that comes to me and wants to do a day, and I don't really do clients. I just do like days at the house, but I'll know more about their business and their client than they do by the time they get to my house, if they've been in that business 20 years. I'll know more about their competitors. I'll know more about their general market. I'll know what their CAGR is in their market. I'll know their cost analysis. I'll know their margins. I'll know what's motivating their clients. I'll know everything about them. And they don't. They just stumbled into that business one day because somebody said, man, that's a pretty good cake. You should go in the cake baking business, and they just most businesses are stumbled into. They're not entered with any degree of intention. And when you get somebody that comes in with intention, a little bit of capital, and the tools that are here today, it's not a fair fight. When I go into a local market to buy a business or compete in a local market, it's like Mike Tyson fighting Pee Wee Herman. It's like it's not fair. I almost feel bad. It's not fair. It's not fair. And that's not because I'm great. It's just because I utilize these tools a little bit better than the other guy does. So yeah, I think people are not doing that. They're also not using, they're using AI in the wrong place. They're using it in the front of their funnels, where they maybe should have a better human touch, and they're not using it for follow-up. The follow-up automation of creating amazing messaging and marketing automation follow-ups. I think somebody said earlier, how many touch points? I don't think anybody really knows, but the truth is it's a lot, right? And the vast majority of people, get a phone call. Hey, how much is your blank? Oh, that's $18. Okay, thanks. And hangs up the phone. And there's never any follow up to that. There's no lead capture to it. And then the guy down the street who has a kid that went to Berkeley, who put a crazy high tech thing on their website called an opt-in form. And they learned how to send emails out into the future. All of a sudden, this kid that knows no shit from peanut butter is putting you out of business. And this is going to happen. But the kid gets over optimized and loses all the personality. They're going to have their own set of problems. Because like right now, I'm looking for a barbershop owned by Bob. I want to go to Bob's barbershop now. Fuck all these guys. I don't want to go to any of these. Let me have your email address and I gave them bullshit information, by the way. And they didn't care. They didn't care at all. I was Rico Sparducci. I made her spell it. But yeah, it's just crazy. What an idiotic thing. I see that all the time. But the craziness is they'll do that. And then I'll never get anything from them.
Yeah.
They went to the point to piss me off, but then did nothing with my data. I was consulting for Zillow. I don't do a lot of corporate gigs because I don't fit corporate that well. But I was doing a gig for Zillow. And it was a crazy problem they had. The average realtor pays Zillow $125 for a lead. 88% of those leads are never followed up with. At $125 a lead.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Sounds
So
about
effectively
right.
paying $1,000 for the one that they follow up with.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just nutty. So
I wonder if they even realize that.
of course they do. And what it really came down to, they wanted me to help solve it. And really what it comes down to, I would talk to the salespeople. Well, yeah, I didn't call that lead. That was Ping Zhao Shin, and there's this fucking Chinese people. You got to drive them all over. They'll never make up their mind. Or that was Leon Washington, and he sounds like a black guy, and black people ain't got no money. I don't want to call that guy. And, or this or that. They have all these biases, they think, but they're not really biases. What they really are excuses, because on one end of that telephone is the potentiality of the sale and a much higher potentiality of rejection. And faced with rejection, the vast majority of people will cower and do nothing.
Yeah.
Just like my buddy Mitch Miller wrote a paper not long ago called How to Sell Worthless Shit to Weak People. And it was all about the biz op business. And it was a joke. It was a parody piece. But it's like everybody wants stuff. Everybody wants wealth. Everybody wants stuff. And they'll go out and pay people for opportunities and then quit at the first sign of discomfort or effort or potentiality rejection. It's absolutely true. But they'll go back to the bar. And then over time, that desire bug will bite them again, and they'll buy something else. And that's the reason in the opportunity space, you see tons of times the same people bouncing around between different opportunity gurus, buying stuff, the secret system to blank, and they never actually take any action. Because in their heart of hearts, they know they're going to fail, and they don't want to put the effort for. They'd rather watch Landman. They'd rather watch people play cards on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, Perry, I think I've heard you say, there are 3 reasons why people won't buy. One is they don't trust you. They part of it, but the biggest problem usually is they don't trust themselves.
Well, I always say there's 3 reasons why. Number 1, you don't have what they want.
Right.
They clicked on your ad or went into your store or whatever, thinking that you had something that they wanted, but when they got there, it wasn't the thing that they thought it was. The advertising, either the advertising was misleading to them, or that's the reason it's so important that you call out your customer. If you look at the old direct response ads, it's attention, men 50 to 80 who thought they couldn't get life insurance, or attention, if you've had hearing, whatever, or like attention, if you've had hearing problems. but if you call out to the audience, you're sort of shunning away the other people and getting the people that you want to your page. So number one, they don't want what you're selling, and all you can do with that is just have more clarity in your advertising. B, they don't believe you. And that's something I used to do. I used to do this all the time for people, called a points of belief audit. Every offer I ever made that was a great offer asked people to believe exactly one thing. When you ask people in an offer to believe, hey, this is going to make you lose weight, and by the way, it's also going to make your skin brighter, and you're going to have whiter teeth, and you're going to feel better, and you have more energy, and your sleep's going to be better, you're dead as fried chicken. That offer is going to fail. Because what happens, you make that one big promise, that's what people were searching for that day. That other stuff they weren't really looking for, and you think, well, yeah, but that's added benefit. The point is, you don't prove any of it. You just say it. And people eventually call bullshit. Like if you go out to dinner with somebody and they're talking about their Ferrari and they start name dropping all the celebrities they've been out to dinner, you're about 10 minutes in that dinner and you just kind of look at the person next to you. This guy's full of shit. You know it. Or when a girl goes on a date with a guy and he starts talking about how awesome he is, she's just letting him talk because she knows he's going to hang himself. Right. But marketers do that all the time. So they don't believe you. So just concentrate on one big idea. Read Michael Masterson's books, all of them. They're great. That's Agora. But he talks about that a lot. The one big idea. You can only sell one idea at a time. And you don't sell the product. You sell the idea before you sell the product. And try to build as much credibility and proof behind you. The McKinsey company uses something called the pyramid style of writing, created by a lady named Barbara Minto, that has one idea, 3 arguments, 6 pieces of data that back up those arguments. And that's the way to sell. There's no better way to sell. And it builds trust and et cetera, and clarity. But the third one is always the hardest, is they've already failed at something similar. You're trying to sell them a thing. Oh, I tried Amazon. Amazon doesn't work. Right. Clearly, Amazon doesn't work. Right. Clearly, online marketing doesn't work. Clearly, email marketing doesn't work. Clearly, affiliate marketing doesn't work. It didn't work for you. So therefore, it doesn't work. Because nobody can look in the mirror and go, I kind of did a half-assed job on that. So rather than go back and try again, they want to try selling lemonade this time. Maybe that'll work. They look for a new thing. They don't look in the mirror at all. They accept no level of personal responsibility. And it's not even really their fault. Their self-esteem is so low. Most people's self-esteem is so incredibly low that they can't stand another disappointment. Frankly, they don't want to stay where they're staying. They don't want to stay where they're staying, but they can't stand another disappointment. So they don't believe in themselves. They'll believe that if Ken Tucker says, "Hey, you can go do this, and here's 10 other people that I've showed how to do this, and they all did it," they'll absolutely believe Ken did it. They'll actually believe those other 10 people did it, but they won't believe they can do it because they have such low self-esteem and self-doubt, and it's hard to overcome. And I think the problem with a lot of marketers, we try to get them in a temporary suspension of belief so that they go, yeah, I can do it. Yay, Tony Robbins. Woo, woo, yeah, just do it. And then they on the drive home, they're like, what the fuck did I just buy? What did I do? I'm never going to be able to do that. And they get buyer's remorse, and you get refunds, and they hate you forever, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah, Perry, this has been amazing. We're at an hour. I want to be respectful of your time. I mean, honestly, we could talk to you forever because you're just such a wealth of knowledge. And I do want to make a disclosure that I am in Perry's mastermind. It's called Ignite Mastermind. It's easily the best thing that I've done for my business. I encourage everybody to check out and learn more about what you're doing, Perry, and look into the Ignite Mastermind. Having said that, what's the best way for people to connect with you, find out more about all the great things you've got coming up, including the Growth Hacking Summit? It's coming up in September.
Yeah. I don't know when this is going to air, but yeah, we've got the Growth Hacking Summits in about 12 days now, which is crazy. In San Diego, growthhacking.com. That's our largest event of the year. Then in the spring, we'll do the AI Bot Summit. That's all about AI. Growth hacking is all about growth hacking. And then I do a thing every morning called the AI Morning Club, which is a lot of fun. It's totally free. We don't ever allow anything to be sold on there, pitched on there. It doesn't cost anything to go to AI Morning Club. And we just talk about what's new in AI every morning for about 30 minutes. And it's a fun little thing, kick off your day. And if you want to know about Ignite Mastermind, call Ken Tucker. He'll tell you about it. And, any of the members, I always tell people, don't ask me about it. You can go to ignitemastermind.org and read about it or whatever, but you're better off to go to a member. Talk to a member about it, and they'll tell you what they think. And if, I don't know, Ken might tell you it sucks. He might tell you it's great. I don't know. Find any member and talk to them, because that's how it's spread. We're about almost 1,300 members now. And then it's grown, almost exclusively word of mouth. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Perry. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I mean, your insights are just amazing to me. I mean, I always learn so much talking with you and hearing you. The stories you have and the insights are just, leaves me speechless a lot of times.
Well, thanks, man. Jeff and Paul and Ian, thanks for being here. And it was nice to meet you guys. And
it was great.
We'll do it again sometime soon if you want.
All right. Sounds great. Yeah.
Paul must have a face for radio. He's. Thanks so much, guys.
Big data.
What's that?
Big data.
I'm big data, yeah. All right. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks so much, Perry.
Thanks.